The opposition again abandoned the Assembly, removing the ability to approve changes to the road code or the statute on judges and prosecutors, as the DP's parliamentary group leader called for a revote on the National Theatre. At the end of the deadline for inclusion in the VAT, the Directorate of Taxation suggests that the scheme includes 11,340 subjects, though the scheme is opposed by interest groups who think it will create additional costs. Uchiza municipality residents protested against the cutting down trees and exploiting century-old forests in their area, with hundreds of residents gathering stating the forests are the greatest asset they have. Good evening, it's 6 o'clock on Thursday the 19th of July 2018. Welcome to the English edition of Aura News. My name is Alexandra and I'm here to bring you the day's top stories from across the country translated into English. The Socialist Party is faced again with a lack of votes in the Assembly, which forced a postponement until Monday for changes in the road code and changes to the law on the status of prosecutors and judges. Monday also marks the conclusion of meetings for this parliamentary season. The opposition participated in the session for only a few minutes, leaving with the argument that the majority manipulated the vote on the new theatre law. In the previous session, the opposition groups urged for a revote on the law to demolish the National Theatre after a majority MP had voted for a deputy of the opposition. The President of the Assembly ordered the meeting of the Voting Council and procedures to be convened and confirmed the opposition's position that voting on behalf of the opposition MP was conducted. As irregularities have been identified in the voting, the process must be repeated. I ask for a revote on the law for the theatre on the grounds that the voting has been irregular. Because you do not allow this wrong action to be corrected by the Assembly, we will leave this session as an action in protest. We cannot stand in a parliament where votes are stolen, even when there is no need to do so, said Chair of the Democratic Party Parliamentary Group, Edmund Sparho. But the Chairman of the Socialist Party Parliamentary Group, Talon Bala, still believes the opposition will give consensus on these laws, pointing out that the changes are very important. I propose that for the sake of an important dialogue with a still accountable part of the opposition, the proposal of the MP, Pierin Nindreu, and the one for the amendments to the law on the status of judges and prosecutors are postponed for the session of July 23rd. For the draft law and amendments to the road code, discussion is termed exhausted and further action leads to carrying out the voting. While for the next law, I believe and hope that the opposition reflect on Monday on this request and the obligation that the Assembly has in the framework of the implementation of justice reform to continue to have open discussions on issues. We welcome such discussions with the opposition, said Talon Bala. Amendments to the law on the status of judges and prosecutors aim at unlocking the stalemate in which the justice system is located. But earlier, Chair of the Republicans, Fatmir Mediu, said the justice system has fallen. From the podium of the Albanian Parliament, President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, who is on a state visit to our country, reiterated Croatia's support for Albania's EU integration process. Albania is a very important partner, not only strategical but also political, and this is well known by the EU. Croatia strongly supports Albania's path towards EU integration and welcomes all the visible progress Albania has made in meeting the criteria for EU membership, said Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović. The President praised the progress made by Albania, demanding that the EU recognise it. The Croatian state leader conveyed positive messages to the Albanian political class, pointing out that integration requires a national union. Today, as a young, energetic nation committed to Western democratic values, Albania has excellent prospects, and it is very important to highlight positive examples, and the EU should evaluate them for this. I would also like to congratulate you on the decision of the Council, which was recognised with the progress made by Albania. This is on the road to opening negotiations in June 2019. That is why, in the coming year, it is very important to ensure a national union on strategic issues in order to maintain motivation for reforms. In this context, the reforms that Albania has made so far, particularly those in the field of judiciary, should be recognised. It is necessary to emphasise the importance of vetting, which will increase the confidence in the judicial institutions on the base of the rule of law, said Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović. The President said that Croatia will work hard to enable another summit between the EU and the Western Balkans. As a member state, we have just become part of the EU. We are pleased that the Bulgarian and Austrian presidencies have placed enlargement issues as a key part of their agenda. We see this as a development that welcomes and reaffirms once again the commitment to Southeastern Europe by EU institutions and EU member states. We will invest even greater efforts to organise another summit between the EU and the Western Balkans. Croatia will continue to support Albania's EU integration by offering it its experience and knowledge, by supporting the capacity building of Albanian institutions, including strengthening administrative and institutional capacities. As far as economic cooperation is concerned, we should emphasise the field of energy and environmental protection. Construction of the Ionian Adriatic pipeline is a priority of both countries. Croatia wants to further strengthen strategic relations with Albania, said Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic. After more than a year, Genç Ruli and Besnik Mustafa have returned to the Democratic Party to meet with Lulzim Basha and Sali Berisha. Two of the founders of the Democratic Party, ever since the list of the MPs was compiled by Basha that excluded their names, the pair have issued strong criticisms against Basha's leadership. However, today things seem to have changed. A former minister for 8 years in the Berisha government, when the party was taken over by Lulzim Basha, he announced his departure from politics. Today, however, he did not exclude the possibility of a return. The visit to the Democratic Party by the two former functionaries came after the inauguration of Pietar Nori's bust in the courtyard of the Assembly. Approximately 11,300 small businesses were new inclusions in the VAT scheme, with the deadline for declarations having just passed on July 16th. The General Directorate of Taxation informs that all subjects belonging to the band 2 to 5 million lek have submitted to the Tax Administration a simplified declaration of value-added tax. This figure represents about 97% of the total system-generated declarations for small taxpayers who carried the obligation to declare and pay the VAT. Those businesses that have not submitted the declarations will now face penalties, as they are automatically identified to be included in the scheme by the system. Due to complaints from subjects claiming that they find it too difficult to complete the sales and purchase books, the Tax Administration from the 1st to the 16th of July provided 900 small business entities with the necessary assistance to fill in the sales and purchase books, as well as the completion of the simplified VAT statement. At the end of the deadline for declarations, according to which all businesses with earnings over 2 million lek must have submitted for the VAT, small businesses raised concerns that the added cost would lead to bankruptcy and warned of protest. The Small Business Association states that the real burden of this scheme will be felt in the coming months when the time comes to pay for it. Former political prisoners dismissed the anti-constitutional Finance Ministry initiative, which envisages amending the law and abolishing the scheme of third-generation beneficiaries. According to the proposed changes, it is foreseen that only the children of the former convicts and not the grandchildren can benefit through the inheritance line. President of the Nationwide Union for Former Persecuted and Former Convicts, Besim Ndrejoni, warns they will appeal. Representatives of the former persecuted and former political prisoners raised concerns about the performance of the division of instalments. Amendments to the law are being made to shorten the time for reimbursement, since presently the inheritors have only received 2 instalments, and if a calculation is made, it will then take more than 40 years to complete the process. Residents stepped out in protest for the protection from cutting down and exploiting the mass forest of Bulqiza. With placards in their hands, they gathered in the city centre demanding the cancellation of the tender for the use of the forests. Along with civil society citizens who have been placed at the head of the protest, the action was supported by well-known sportsmen, the Keita brothers. Get up to protect a human right, a right that nature, the Lord, has created and has given to Bulqiza, said the protesters. Ali Shehu, the former mayor of the municipal council, said residents are defending a right in the face of what he called the attempts of those in power to rot everything that is public. The municipal council has not made any decision on the approval of a concession agreement, said Ali Shehu. Residents themselves state that their position is that they will protect Bulqiza forests as one of the greatest assets they have. We are united and we will defend them, even with blood, said the protesters. A few days ago, women in the villages of Fushbulqiza protested at the mountain, demanding the forests not be cut down. The weather over the weekend will be stable, and this is good news for all those who are relaxing on the coast. Weather instability next week, however, cannot be ruled out, with meteorologists expecting rain and even storms in mountainous areas. Methodi Marku, meteorologist at the Institute of Geosciences, Energy, Water and Environment, said August is not expected to be as extreme in temperature as last year. Meteorologists predict a long summer and a late autumn, with temperatures that will be high even in September. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join me again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.